So there's some really big shifts, and even if you're not part of them yourself, you'll see in your everyday life that if you're shopping or you're eating out or you're buying a drink or something like that, you'll see the way payments are changing. And the numbers here show we've pretty much passed a tipping point with certain things. It's no longer a gradual shift of a few percent each year. It's really big shifts. Contactless is already the main way that we make in-person payments, and mobile wallets, namely Apple and Google Pay, the fastest growing method of payment.
Yeah, I mean, Ian and I were recently in Berlin for a Google meeting for suppliers, and Google was just talking about wallets big time. So it was all about how you can use wallets. You might have them for your airline tickets. You might have them for gigs. Um, you can have them, for your hotel booking, and you can have them for keys. And of course, you can use them to make payments. So the Google Wallet is just something that's going to grow and grow. And the same as for Apple. So even in the States now, they even have their ID. So you can have your driving license in your Google Wallet or your Apple Wallet. So that will come probably, in the next year or so.
Yeah, they consider it a really secure place to keep that sort of information because it's critical that you keep that safe. But interestingly, looking at the numbers there, you'll see that there's been a huge jump in the number of over 65s with a mobile wallet. That's pretty much doubled from 14 to 25%. And these changes are a result of improved technology. So your customers effectively have a new set of habits around payments, and that does, have an effect on your business. And the impact, well, your customers now probably have greater expectations when it comes to payments, and these expectations are primarily based on convenience. How easy is it to do the payments? But there are other factors at play as well. So, namely that the technologies are now far more secure than they were before. So we'll see with our phones, it's using biometrics like facial recognition, and they're a big game changer. And that's leading to more and more people into sort of wallet payments because they're seen as being safer. And if you consider how the banking system has also changed to support checks on payments, with checks with texts and authentications that you get in your banking app, you can see why these changes are now becoming so dramatic because the technology is just making it much easier and much more secure, and you feel happier doing it. Who wouldn't want more security around their money? And then on the back office side, in terms of, your operations, hotels and B&Bs now can use tokenization to securely store cards, their guest cards. So again, that's a big change in the last few years. So if we have a look at how these technologies can be practically implemented for your benefit, I'll hand over to Craig and he'll do that.
Okay, thanks, Ian. So that's a little background of like the demographics and how those wallets are growing. So we're just going to do a little demo here. We've developed an express booking process, which is part of our payments offering. And we're going to do this demo. I'll do the demo myself, but you can do it on your phone. You've got a little QR code there. So if you've got an Apple or a Google Wallet, you can have a go and see how it works yourself on the QR code. But don't worry, if you don't do that, I'm going to do the demo live for you as well. And in the process, you'll see that we're using Stripe technology and Google and Apple wallets to capture the details of a guest automatically. It's worth saying at this point that we're developing an alternative payment system to Stripe that will have very much the same functionality, and we expect that to be available in the next couple of months. But I'm just going to switch to the demo here, which I'm going to use my phone to show you. Okay. Set that. Okay, so this is how you could do a booking. So essentially on this one, selected some dates for the booking. I can scroll down there and I've got the double or twin room. So I can choose to add breakfast. I can select and then I can press book. Can maybe add some flowers to the room. Press continue. And then this comes up with usually you would be entering your name, address, and email and phone number, but instead here I've got a book with Apple Pay. So what I can do is I can just click the book with Apple Pay, and that's just going to do a look at my face, double check that it's me, and it's decided that it is me, and then it's just waiting, and that's it. So that's the confirmation there. And it's just confirmed. So as you notice there, I didn't put my name in, I didn't put my email address, didn't put my phone number, I didn't put my card in. It all just happened in less than a minute. So that's very, very convenient. I don't have to go searching for my credit card, and I don't have to type stuff in. So it's really quite a big, change in the booking process. Yeah. So what you just saw there was the speed, simplicity, and the security. We've had hotels and B&Bs using this process for a while now, and we've analyzed the booking data on it. So in all fairness, I guess we expected the improvements that that we've seen in these numbers. We've always known that if you make a process easier and faster, then you're going to get more people completing the process, and that means your conversion rates go up for your direct bookings. But even with that in mind, we were really very surprised and amazed by the data that we got from it. So with approximately 5 times more guests complete the checkout within 1 minute. So that's completing the booking from the beginning to the end within 1 minute. It's 5 times as many. The typical booking time takes less than half of the non-express version. So what that means is that the most common express booking completes under 1 minute compared to just over 2 minutes for a standard booking. That's quite a big difference, obviously. Across properties using express booking, we've also seen much higher conversion rates. So on average, we see a gain of 11% in conversion. So that means 11% more completed bookings. These numbers demonstrate just how easily it is for guests to make a booking. In other words, it's the convenient process to complete, and that's what really matters. So the data proves that the value of shortening the booking process, there's a huge reduction in what we were asking guests to enter. You may notice there was no name, no mobile number, no card details. They're all coming from my wallet. Yet the booking has all of those details in them, and those will appear in your diary as you would expect. At 43% quicker, we think it's one of the fastest booking processes on the planet. We use Stripe technology to handle the wallets. And if a guest has a wallet on their phone or their PC, the wallet option is automatically offered, as you saw on my phone. And on Freetobook, Apple Pay and Google Pay now account for just over 33% of payments where that option is offered. So you're always competing with the OTAs for your direct booking. So I'm always for example, I'm always asking friends, how did you book if they're talking about a hotel that they booked? And sometimes they say that they booked it through an OTA, and then I always ask them why didn't they book that direct? And most times they tell me that it's easier because they go to the hotel's website and they find that the booking process isn't as good as the one I've just shown you. But when I show them the express booking, I'll just take my phone out of my pocket, and they can see they literally eyes light up and they go, wow, okay, that is really fast. And, they didn't even have to find their card. So payments, makes a really big difference in how the payments process matters to your guest, and it matters to you. The express booking process that we've implemented is faster than booking on an OTA. Not only that, it's much more secure than it's ever been because I use biometrics. I've got to use my face recognition. So you can be sure that you're going to get fewer chargebacks and less fraud, because of these added security levels that you get on wallets. You can be sure that the guest is actual guest that's booking. So you'll know that the transaction is fraud proof. Wallets offer the most secure form of payment or authorization that was currently available, and alongside their convenience has resulted in this growth that you see. It's the convenience and also the security that makes people want to use them more and more. I'm just going to pass to Ian to have a wee look at contactless payments, which is another feature of our integration in our payment systems.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned earlier that the contactless payments are now kind of the norm when it's in-person payments. And these, we've been working on something now, and these can actually be taken on a phone. So no extra hardware is required. And the phone becomes a terminal. We've named our version Guest Tappy because it's all about tapping. And it's an app that we've built that connects to Free2book. And this app uses Stripe with Apple's Tap to Pay on iPhone technology. So it's available on iPhones only. But with that, you can accept all types of in-person payments with the guest either tapping their card on your phone or their phone to your phone. And when they're doing the phone to phone, they're just using their Apple or Google Wallet. Again, this is really about convenience as well as security. We never really go anywhere without our phones these days. And many of the younger generation don't actually carry real wallets now. They just take their phone. And tap to pay kind of works perfectly for walk-ins or for upselling extras, or when a guest wants to use a card that's not been stored in the booking. So it's really quick and it's really convenient for the guests. It's secure and private, and it's that way because it's using the built-in features of the iPhone to keep your data and your customers' data private and secure. And with Tap to Pay, it can process payments of over £100 because, again, it's using Apple's security features, namely the biometrics. And guests trust it. So we regularly see payments of 1,000 plus, £1,000 plus going through it. We'll give you a quick demo of that in a minute, but I'll just quickly explain how it works. I mean, essentially, you'll have your Free2book open and you send a payment request from your diary in Free2book, selecting Tap to Pay on iPhone. You'll get that payment notification pop up on your iPhone, and you simply present your iPhone to the customer. Your customer holds their card horizontally or their device on top of your iPhone over the contactless symbol. And then you'll just see a done tick and the card is read and the transaction's completed, and it processes and updates in Free2book. So we'll just have a short demo of that.
Start just by taking a straightforward payment. We click on the guest name. You see the blue button, Tap to Pay on iPhone, £100, click that button. And on our phone, we get our payment request. We click on here, opens up the app. And you can see there it's now ready for the guest to pay. So the guest just provides their card, holds it over the contactless logo, and payment has been taken. And you can see there, back in Free2book, the payment has been successful.
I mean, that all looks very simple, and that's because it is. We've built that process to work, very fluidly. And to be honest, when you see it in action, it feels a bit magical with all the connections. But all it is that the app on your iPhone is connected to Free2book and to Stripe, and they all work together. So it's really very simple, but very effective. So we've talked a little bit about contactless. We've talked about online payments, but there are other things to consider in payments, and some are less positive. So if we just look at one of the big things that we see a lot of growth in, and we wonder why, and that's virtual credit cards that the OTAs use. And they are growing, and the question is why? It's possibly because for some businesses it feels more convenient, but because the OTAs are particularly good probably at playing on your fears, sometimes irrational ones, and they're great at the opt-in, the auto opt-in, which we very often have calls coming in where people are asking why a certain thing is happening via the channels, only to discover that the hotel or the B&B didn't opt out of something that they actually didn't want. So you do have to read everything that the OTA sent to you. If you are using a virtual credit card or considering doing so, then we would say, think about the following things. So this is what we see as the truth in virtual credit cards. They are expensive to use. You could be paying up to 3.5% to get your money from the OTA, and that's on top of your commission. And why? It's because that they're corporate cards and they're usually international, which are the most sort of too expensive, the most expensive sort of combination. So if you consider that many guests might be paying the OTA with a UK debit card, you get that. By the time you get that money, you're having to take it from an international business card. And if you are using a virtual credit card, we'd always advise you to check your bills just to see, how much they cost. I did actually write a detailed blog about this about 6 weeks ago, looking at the pros and cons of virtual credit cards, and we'll share that with you following the presentation here. It's worth a read. It's something that's not often talked about, and when you search on the internet, it's very difficult to find any sort of truthful articles that talk about the negatives and not just the positives of virtual credit cards for independent businesses. They're often seen as the kind of the solution, but there are other costs. And as well as the things that you can see there about weaker loyalty and more expensive transactions, there's probably one of the biggest impacts that they have is that that goes undetected and unreported, is that it enables the OTA to undercut your direct rate, and that has a massive impact. And I'm going to hand over to Craig here just to show you what that looks like and explain that.
Thanks, Ian. Yeah. So on this video, we'll just see how this undercutting takes place. As you can see, that the OTA there has got a lower price than the direct price. So the direct price was 130 and the OTA was 126. Now, we can see if we look at that, we click through to the OTA site and it says there that the OTA is paying £11. So what they've done there is they've shaved off a little bit of their commission and then they've lowered the price directly. So that what happens there is that you've been undercut. So a guest is going to think that it's cheaper to book with the OTA. So you can see there, you can see it again. They've taken 8% off. They're getting 8% off. So that's something that, demonstrates something a little bit sinister that we see. We see it very often. It's, probably hundreds of millions in commission lost, but it demonstrates that the OTAs are using the virtual cards, and it's going under the radar. So it's not something that they tell you that they use the virtual card for. And what they're doing there is because they're taking the payment direct from the guest, it means that they can change the price and they'll undercut your direct price, and it makes it look like the OTAs have actually got a better price. So it's something you need to be aware of in accepting virtual cards from the OTAs. So I'll pass over to Ian just to do a quick summary of what we've talked about today.
Yeah, I mean, we've covered the key areas of wallets, contactless, and the pitfalls basically of virtual credit cards. But to recap very quickly, these are the things that will happen if you perfect your payments. A small percentage increase in your conversion rate, actually has a very big impact on your bottom line. And you achieve this by having, payment processors that are convenient for your guests, and that convenience also improves the guest experience. You also reduce your workload by automating payments, and you increase direct bookings by making sure that you control the rates that the OTAs are able to offer. And you also improve the direct booking by offering, a better booking experience than the OTAs can do. And again, you saw that with the express booking process. And finally, these technologies help reduce chargebacks and keep card data really secure. So this tech that enables all these improvements is generally a little bit more expensive, but that's because it's doing a lot more than the other technologies out there. And we're currently working on another payment system, as Craig mentioned, that will have the same ability or capabilities as the ones we've discussed above, like express booking, but it'll actually cost less than Stripe. And the goal really here is to offer, simple, secure payment processes that mean actually your guests might enjoy paying you if such a thing can be achieved.